We've been having quite a winter for St. Louis, but so for most of the Midwest and the whole East Coast. Temps here this past week at 7 below zero and wind chills of 24 below. It's been a long time, really, since here we felt anything like that. But it was expected, you know. Well, not if you trust the scientists alone, perhaps it wasn't. But it was if you trust the woolly bear caterpillar. You see, they told us this was going to happen. Of course, the smart people with their computers and their Doppler radar, they didn't see it coming this time. I don't know if many of you read the daily newspaper in St. Louis. Sometimes I get to it at the end of the day, and one of the columns I enjoy reading is by a writer named Bill McClellan. Recently, Bill told a story of how some people say that they can tell what kind of winter we will have by the width of the stripe on the back of a woolly bear caterpillar. Now, the Weather Service said it was just going to be an ordinary winter this year. But the old Farmer's Almanac that goes way, way back says we're in for quite a rough winter. So who do you believe? Bill asks. Who do you believe? People who look at the width of the stripes of a woolly bear caterpillar are people who use fancy computer models. Not that those two things are antithetical, mind you, but sometimes we let them be. What does all this have to do with the feast we celebrate tonight? The feast of the baptism of the Lord. My friends, baptism is about many, many things, and like every sacrament, neither this homily tonight nor a year of homilies could address it all. But there is something in this baptism of His and our own that says there's something more to life that a computer can never understand. That this life, His, mine, yours, is about so much more than what we can see or smell or hear or taste or touch. That this life is about more than we can put under a microscope and study. That our lives mean something. They mean something, don't they? That there are levels of meaning to me and to you that we can know, but we will never finish knowing. That's why there is water. Water that He went down into and up out of. Water that is just so primal and speaks to us beyond words, deeper than words. And that's why there are clouds parting, which have captured our imagination since we were young, so young, looking up at those passing beauties. And there was this voice. A voice, was it? Was it the wind blowing in a new way from a new direction? A shift in the wind, perhaps? A howling? And this voice in the howling that said something that is the beginning of everything over Him and over us. Beloved. My beloved. This is my beloved. My point is, there's something so magical about life, in life, And woe to us if we don't let ourselves begin to see it. We would be missing so much. Bill went on to tell one last story before he finished. It was about a primitive tribe off the coast of Sumatra. Their villages were built very close to the ocean. And in the immediate aftermath of the tsunami of 2004, officials were sure that the tribe had to have been wiped out. But no. The truth was that tribe sensed, somehow, some way they sensed something was going to happen. And so they escaped to higher ground. How did they know? How did they know when people with modern technology and sophisticated communication were caught unawares? An anthropologist from just across the street who had the opportunity to live with that tribe suggested that they have senses that we modern people have lost. They can tell the depth of the water, he said, by the feel of their paddles as they row. They can tell the depth of the water by the feel of their paddles as they row. Now that seems really hard to believe. But it's really not, actually, the professor went on. It is possible. Because by paying attention to the resistance on the paddle, and that resistance will be related to its depth. So there you have it. Science proves what those primitive people have known all along. And maybe even the woolly bear caterpillar. Maybe they know something science doesn't sometimes. After all, they should know, shouldn't they? They live in it. They have to figure out how to survive in those dreadful cold winds and in the snow. Now, if you don't believe any of this, you probably don't appreciate much the story of the baptism of the Lord. If you dismiss that whole dimension of life, that whole spiritual dimension to life, you will perhaps understand the properties of water and the properties of wind and the properties of clouds and even be moved to wonder and to wow because of what you know about them. But you probably won't believe in water doing things science and even therapy can't do, or clouds telling us stories, and wind that talks and tells us who we are deep down, or even if there is a deep down inside of us. Much less that as He was, so we are, you and I, loved with an infinite love. And that nothing we can do can stop that rush of love that is always coming to us. No failure of yours, no hurt or betrayal, not even death will stop that rush of love coming at you all the time and from everywhere. Each of our lives is about those whispered meanings. Yet many would say it's all meaningless without meaning. And many say there's nothing magical about it all at all, and they live completely unaware of the magical nature of the world. Truth is, seems to me, that there are magical things going on all around us, all the time. There's meaning everywhere. And often it lies just beyond us to know it. And I'd like to think that as this baptism of the Lord suggests, that there is magic all around us all the time, everywhere, as a matter of fact, all the time, everywhere, in water, in wind, in clouds, and the whispered truth that nobody can prove and no microscope will reveal, that we are beloved, that we are the beloved of God, that all this will always be telling us of a God who will not let us go. Oh, let me be clear. Baptism does not do magic. Baptism announces magic. Baptism does not do magic. Baptism only announces magic, that this universe and each one of us in it were born into a magical world. And baptism is a way of saying there is more to this than this. The reason you were baptized, the reason we baptize still, is to declare that that is true. And to declare that we know there is more. In an industrial age, in an age when science is booming, as well it should, science should be doing its thing and should be booming at it, because we need science. But even when science is booming so much, perhaps baptism all the more is needed right now in this world. That something like baptism is needed to say that there is more here than meets the eye. And to strike the balance. To strike the balance with science and with faith. Baptism will not let us miss the magic in life. In each and every baptism, of the tiniest baby to the oldest adult, in each and every baptism, we announce it unabashedly. And we will get to it, you and I. We will get to the magic if we take the time and listen. Listen to the wind. Listen to the water. Listen to the clouds.